groups involved in this process, the group that take the children, the group that probably look after the children, the person that you're speaking to, and these people probably might not even ever met each other. So we were highly sophisticated groups, and that's pretty much why the police so far have not been able to ever arrest any of these big syndicates. There's been no significant arrests so. And this is typically why there's no police release of the children by finding out where they are.
So we're going to start with from the very scratch, from the basics of how a website works when it's on WordPress, because you need a clear understanding of how the server technology works behind the site. And I'm going to show you a little video, and then I will explain halfway through the video just exactly what's happening here. So let's have a look.
Hello, my name is Randy. In this Treehouse Quick Tip, we're going to talk about the LAMP stack. If you're unfamiliar with this term, I can assure you, it's quite different than a stack of lamps. A stack in this sense is a technology stack or a solution stack, a list of all the major components used to form a complete technology solution. The LAMP stack is probably the most common stack used for hosting websites and web applications, especially among small to medium-sized sites. LAMP is an acronym that stands for 4 major components: Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. Each of these components are open source and free to use, which has helped contribute to their popularity. Let's look at how a typical web request works to see what each component does. A visitor to a website will enter a web address in a browser. This will send off a request to a web server. That web server will execute some code that generates an HTML file and sends it back to the visitor's browser. All the LAMP components are installed and running here on the web server. A server is a type of computer, and it needs an operating system. The L in LAMP stands for Linux, the operating system in this stack. You probably have Microsoft Windows or Apple's Mac OS X running on your desktop computer, but Linux is incredibly popular for servers. The operating system provides a base foundation on which all the other components can run. The A stands for Apache, which is the web server software. It receives and handles all those requests from visitors. If someone requests index.html or lolcat.jpg, Apache looks on the server for the file and sends it back to the visitor's browser. Let's skip the M for a moment and look at the P, which usually stands for PHP. It could also stand for Perl or Python, though these are not as common. PHP is a programming language for generating dynamic web pages. When a visitor requests a PHP file, Apache won't just get that file and send it back to the browser like it does with HTML files or with images. Instead, it gives the file to PHP first. PHP executes the code in that file and generates the HTML for the web page. The HTML generated by PHP goes back to Apache and then back to the visitor's browser. The M stands for MySQL. This is a database engine used for storing a site's data. Often the data needed to generate a PHP file depends on who the visitor is, like their name or account number or order history. A database allows that data to persist over time. PHP retrieves that data from the database, uses it to generate the HTML for the page that then gets sent by Apache back to the visitor's browser. The LAMP stack.
Okay, let me just pause it right there and explain to you. I know that is a lot of Greek, but essentially what happens, let's say, for instance, you have a website and you need hosting for that website. So that website has to constantly be on, it has to sit on a server somewhere. So you need a hosting provider. So we use Xnilo, and today I'll use Xnilo as an example, and they are the best. We host over 50 sites on Xnilo, and they're very reliable. They're in Durbanville in Cape Town, and this server sits with them. That's where your content for your website sits. So what we do when we develop a WordPress site is we actually load the whole system on the hosting server, and we then deploy it so that we can build the site. Now, the process, when somebody, this is the end user, so when they access the site, that request is sent to the Durbanville server, then Cape Town, and the server has Apache software on it. And it passes that request to PHP, which is a programming language. And that programming language tells the database, give me all the information on the homepage. And it returns it to PHP, the programming language, which converts it to HTML and CSS, which is the two languages all websites are built on. HTML being for the structure of the site, and CSS stands for cascading style sheets, which is the look of the site. Think of it this way, the HTML is the bare skeleton of a parrot, while all the colors is the CSS. So PHP sends all of that back to Apache, which sends it back to your user. And that's the process. So what happened before WordPress, when we developed a site on, for instance, Dreamweaver as a program, we used to develop the whole website on our computer. And we then uploaded it to this server. So there was no PHP and no MySQL. But as time evolved, people wanted more powerful systems. They wanted a site that you can upload CVs, and they wanted all these animations and all these things. So WordPress developed this system to be much more intelligent within a programming environment, not just a site that works on just pure HTML and CSS. Okay, the good news is, as long as you have a slight understanding of what I just said, you don't have to deal with this. You just have to know, okay, my site is running on PHP and MySQL. Now, what happens when you want to build a website? Your first step is going to be to register your domain. So Xnilo is xnilo.co.za. And like I said, they are here in Cape Town. And your first step is to find out, is that domain you want to create available? So we go to domains. And we can check if a URL is available to purchase. A URL works like a telephone number. You pay once a year to keep that telephone number or that address. Okay, so you have to, with them, what you do is you register, and they will make sure that, you know, on your debit order that once a year you keep that address, unless you tell them to cancel it. So let's say, for instance, we want to do a site for KFC called crazychickenfridays.co.za. We'll do a search here for that URL, and it will tell us whether that URL is available. And then what the cost would be. So that's telling us it's available, and it's 89 Rand a year. If we want the .com, that's 200 Rand a year. If we want crazychickenfridays.net, that's 250. So you can see all of the types of URLs that's available. Okay, most of the time, guys, if it's a South African business, do a .co.za. There's no reason to go .com route unless you're going to have like an international clientele or draw on international clientele. People know .co.za as South African companies, so it's just better to go for that. So once your URL is available, you go and you sign up, and they will take you through the process. They'll tell you what you will be paying for the URL, and you just keep going through the process. They will ask you, do you want web hosting with that URL? Because remember, just registering the domain name does not give you the hosting space. It does not give you the space where you're going to upload your files that make up that website. So under web hosting, their hosting cost is 99 Rand a month for the cheapest package. And it gives you everything you can possibly desire. You know, most of our websites run on the 99 Rand a month. You don't have to go for these other options, because this 99 Rand a month solution gives you the full LAMP stack. Okay. So you just go through the whole process, sign up, and then they will send you a login code. Now that's the first step. What we do when we start a site is we fire up just a normal little word editor like Notepad. And let me just pull this in, hold on. And we take that code that they sent us. Sorry, this is maximizing my screen now. And we create the detail sheet. We call it a detail sheet for a specific client, in which we keep all of their passwords Okay, this is no nonsense. So where we keep all of their passwords. So we'll say yeah, Xnilo login. And then we will go and check what is the other details we need. When developing a website, there is specific things that you need to register. Like firstly, the database, that MySQL database. Then you have to find the FTP details for a site. FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol. And it's a way for us to connect to that server in Durbanville from our computer. So whatever files we have on the computer can then be copied to that server so that it's live. Okay, now I'm just going to log in here. Just want to show you, this is my company folder. Now look at this. I keep all of this in one central location. There's all the websites we work on with all of their detail sheets. And in it, there is the details, the FTP, the WordPress logins, the usernames, the passwords, everything that you can think of that you might need for that client. And it's imperative to keep that, because if something goes wrong with the site, you need to reference back to that. Okay, so I have the details here for our server. And I'm just going to use this login. And this login you will receive once you've registered with them. And now we're inside our account. Okay, that was a lot. Any questions up to here? Do you understand the whole process, where I got the URL, where I linked it to the basic account, and now I'm inside that hosting account? Okay, is that clear? Stop me at any point in time, just raise your hand or ask away. Now, from our account, we can host multiple sites on here. Now, just what I want to show you here, it's the difference between hosting WordPress and creating a site on something like WordPress.com is very different. WordPress.com is simply a blog platform. It's not a full site. So in other words, you get a URL that would be crazychickenfridays.wordpress.com. What we're doing is we're developing the full WordPress on a hosted server. And that's why we go through this process. Now, what I'm about to show you for the next 20 minutes is the correct way of doing it. But there's a shortcut, which I'll tell you afterwards. So don't freak out now for what you're about to see. It gets technical, but I want you to have this understanding, and then I will show you the shortcut to this. Right. We have a domain, which we're going to use today. We're going to build a site for EnduraFit, but we're going to put it on a URL which I've registered called wetfundi.net. Okay, so that we went through that process and we registered the domain. Now I can click on that domain. And it gives me all of the details for that domain. Now, the first thing we need is the FTP details. There you can see the FTP details. Why? Because we want to copy files from our computer onto the server. So we need that login. So in here, you will get the FTP details, and you put them, of course, in your detail sheet. Where's my little detail sheet for? So this is the one that we're working with today. So you can see here, I've put in the FTP details over here as the first element. Okay. Secondly, we want to download WordPress. And the full WordPress, all the files that make up the system that we're uploading is under wordpress.org. It's completely free. You do not pay for WordPress. Okay, it's an open source platform. Now, once we've downloaded that, we'll get a file, WordPress. and you can see that this file is zipped. So we need to get this file onto our server. Who's got a suggestion? What are we going to do? Let's see who listened. How do I get those files onto the server? Sit your rekenaar asseblief. Sorry guys, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
we can still hear you.
Okay, no, sorry. It almost seems like there was sound problems here. Let's okay. So how do we get those files onto the server? With FTP. Because remember, we just got those FTP details. Now we use a program called FileZilla. And all this little program does is it connects our computer to the server, the Durbanville server. So if I use those details and I say my domain is this name, and my username and my password. Okay, now it's connecting to that server. And on this side, we now see the server. Now, a website always sits under public HTML. Okay, that's where you drop your files on all servers, whether you go the GoDaddy route, whether you go SiteGround, whatever host you can think of, they will have that public HTML folder. And it's in that folder that we need to copy the WordPress files. Now, I've already got a version or a site of WordPress here. So I'm just going to create another directory and we'll call it EnduraFit. And we'll drop the files in there. Now, don't get confused because the file should be dropped straight in the public HTML folder. But because I've already got a site here, I'm going to put it into the EnduraFit folder for today. And I'm just uploading that whole WordPress zip file. So that means while it's uploading, that my URL for my site will not be webfundi.net. I've got a subfolder. What will my URL for my site be? What do you think? Take a guess. It will be webfundi.net/EnduraFit. Okay, so normally it would have just been under webfundi.net. Now, next up, I want to unzip those files. Okay. And so I'm going to go to back to my backend and go into that folder, because here in your backend environment in Xnilo, it gives you the opportunity and makes it possible for you to unzip files. And there's the zip file. So I can unzip that file. And now I go back to FileZilla. And I see that the files is being deployed. You see, here's all the WordPress files. Now I'm just going to put it into the root folder of EnduraFit so that we can install our site. And that's it. Now it's ready to be deployed. Okay, hold on for me. All right. Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Now, let's go to that URL. So webfundi.net. .net/EnduraFit. Because remember now, we've put all of the files that make up WordPress on that live server. So this URL is now completely live. And it now tells me, okay, do you want to install WordPress? Yes. So we'll say we want English, South Africa. And it will ask us, what is the database name, the database username, database password, and the database host. Okay, now we need to go back to our hosting account and set it up. So also in your little menu, it says Manage MySQL. And I can add a database over there. And let's put this on our details sheet. So you'll see I've created one here. So let's make a, what you need is the username, the password, the server, password, server, and the database name. So we just grab it from here. Okay, now we have all the details that WordPress needs. I go back to the setup and I say, let's go. Now it's asking me for all the details I just grabbed from my hosting account. Just put it in. And then I'm just going to make this with Fundi and then submit. Sorry, I put in something wrong over here. Let's check. Okay. Sorry, let's just go check again. What's those details? Oh, there. Made a mistake here. And that was right. Okay, sorry, it's a bit of a rigmarole. Okay, let's do it again. And go. Yay, done. So run installation. We say here the site is EnduraFit. Our username, we can decide, it's normally lowercase, and don't do admin because remember WordPress sites is hacked regularly. So rather do something like admin in EnduraFit or something. And then password, let it auto-generate a password for you. And I'm just going to use my email as the webmaster email address. Yes, Shannon, go ahead.
Just a quick question. So the process that you just went through now is to obviously to file share from your host, which is Xnilo, and then to WordPress. So this websites that I have already, I'm already hosting on WordPress. So that means I don't need to, I don't have to do this process necessarily unless I choose another host.
You don't necessarily have to. You must just check what used to happen with WordPress.com is you don't have the plugin functionality. So you can't develop the site further. It's limited to to what WordPress is capable of. It can't access all additional plugins. Have you ever installed a plugin on those?
No, not yet. So I'm planning to get Elementor so that I do have more plugins and more fancy things, basically, is how I explained it to my client. So like we have things like pop-ups, we have things like things like that, and obviously like little buttons for communication with either through WhatsApp or just WhatsApp at this stage.
Yeah. So just remember, if WordPress.com is limiting you, and you can't install those plugins, this is the route you have to follow. You have to put it on your own server, then it won't run on the WordPress.com server. So just have a look at that. As far as I know, it has to be developed on the server to be able to plug in all those additional services and plugins.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, so let's take here, I'm going to write down in our details sheet as well, what's the login for the site. So we'll say here, this is going to be EnduraFit, and my usual URL is EnduraFit /. This is how you access the backend of your site. Whichever site is developed on WordPress has this /WP admin at the back. Okay, that way you can see the loading site, and on the normal URL you can see the actual site. Now let's just take this username and we'll take this password. Okay, so can you see the importance of this detail sheet? Now I've got all the details here. If I have to source an external consultant to maybe develop a separate part of the site, they're going to need all of these details. So if you keep it in one spot, you're never going to have problems to actually find the correct details at the correct time. So that's a very good tip for you. Just keep track of that. Okay, and let's install WordPress. Boom, my site is ready. Now I can log in and I see the WordPress backend. I use my username and password that I created. And now I'm inside the backend of the site. Okay, this most of you will recognize if you've worked with a WordPress site. We're going to talk through all of this and see how it relates to the actual functionality. Yes, Verona.
I just want to confirm, just in summary, you went to the host and you downloaded the WordPress, the software.
I went to wordpress.org to download.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. And then you loaded it onto FileZilla. Can you just give me a summary of the steps you took just quickly in one sentence? You went to wordpress.org, downloaded, go to FileZilla, what that did. Just in summary quickly.
Absolutely. So your first step, remember, would be to go to your host and to create your hosting account. Your second step would be to get the FTP details of the site so that you can use FileZilla. Your third step would be go to WordPress and download the WordPress files. Okay. Now think about it logically. Now you need to get those WordPress files onto the server. So for that, we went to FileZilla and we uploaded all the WordPress files to the URL. Then we went back to our host and we went to the file manager and we unzipped that file we just put on there. Okay, and when we've unzipped it, all of the files for WordPress is now on the server ready to run WordPress. So by going to our URL that we registered, we'll see the installation screen for WordPress. And under Manage MySQL, we will be able to set up the database so that we have the database details when we do that installation. Throughout the process, remember to record all of these settings. I will email you with your video recording this afternoon, the steps that I took. Okay, so it will become clear. I know this is Greek at the moment, but here's the good news. The whole process, I just did everything. What I could have done on all hosting platforms is I could have gone to software and click on WordPress installer, and boom, it's all done for you. Okay, so I just wanted you to understand the full process of what happens, when you deploy the site. But essentially, no matter what your hosting platform is, whether it's GoDaddy, whether it's Bluehost, doesn't matter. They will have a button that installs WordPress, which afterwards gives you the back end of the site on the URL, and of course, then the front end of the site. So this is what our site looks like at the moment. Not very exciting, but we've done nothing to it yet. So as we work with the site now, we can see the preview of the pages on this URL, and we can see the back end of the site over there. Okay, does it make sense? Verona, you have another question?
No, I'm happy. Thanks.
Okay, it's daunting, guys, that whole process, but just remember, you will have a click. You will have a click on your hosting site that just does the installation for you. If you don't, contact me and I run you through this. I do these installations in 3 minutes. It's really, it just takes that bit of understanding in the beginning, but that button will be there. Okay, your head must be spinning by now. So after your break, we will jump into actually creating the site. Right. So at the moment, we have a bare bone structure of our website. Okay. We have the WordPress environment on the one side where we do the edits. And on the other side, we see the actual website. Now, there's a little trick that I want to teach you right off the bat. What we would normally do when we get to this stage is load a theme. Okay, a theme changes the look of a website. Now, what did I say to you earlier when we saw that video? The structure of a website, in other words, the content here is HTML. It stands for hypertext markup language. That's the language that all websites are built on. When we set up a theme, it makes the site pretty. So the cascading style sheets was the coding that makes a site pretty. So when you install a theme to make your site look different, you're actually just changing the parrot's feathers. You're changing the code that makes the site look the way that it does. So the first step we want to take is to go and install a theme. Now I'm going to use a very simple theme for the beginning, just so that you can get to know WordPress first, and then we will dive into a very complicated or a very advanced one, and I'll tell you how to use them. I'm going to use this 2014 one. Let's add a new one, yeah? It's this one over here, and I'm just going to install it. These come free with WordPress. Okay, so there's a number of themes that you can choose according to the look that your client wants. Now look what happens once I've activated this theme. Just going to click on activate. And the front end of the site now has a new look. Can you see how the coding changed? Now we have a different look. So a lot of people might say to you, okay, we want a refresher of our site. We want a new look. That means you have to change the theme. But it's not as simple as that. When you change a theme, you have to reflow the content into that theme. But we'll get to that later. Now, something else before we dive into loading of content is your page WYSIWYG editor. So if we start a new page, for instance, on the site, you'll notice that WordPress comes out with this Gutenberg editor. Okay, now, because I'm going to show you eventually how Elementor works, there's a plugin cheat that I do. And it's a little plugin called Classic Editor. So I'm adding a new plugin. And don't worry, we'll explain plugins a little bit later in more depth. I'm just going to do here Classic Editor and install that. When you install plugins, you're actually adding to the basic functionality of WordPress. And there is, at the moment, 32,000 plugins. So can you imagine, there's nothing you can't do. Whatever the client tells you they want as functionality on the website, there will be a plugin available to that or for that. Okay, but we will dive more into that later. Okay, so that classic editor is just going to give us a different editing screen, which is much simpler to work with. Now, let's look at the structure of this site. Now, I'm using the example site for EnduraFit. And the client gave us a Word document where the main headings is, of course, the pages. Then we have some blog posts or news that they want on the site. Then we have some additional pages, information, features, about us, and then, of course, the contact us page. So your first step when somebody says to you, build a site, you need this document from them. Okay, so that you know where what content goes. So before we start creating pages, let's look at this menu. The dashboard tells us everything about our site. Okay, just the general information. The posts is where we create intelligent, it's almost like pages, but they're more intelligent, because posts can feed through to any part of your site automatically. So it's great for like a latest news section or upcoming event section. Anything like that would be a post. And a post is clever because it can have categories. Like if we look at EnduraFit, which is a triathlon website, what categories would we have? We would have swimming, cycling, and running as 3 categories. Okay. Now, next up, we've got the media menu, where we can upload images or files or PDFs or anything that the site needs to have as content. Then we have the pages. Pages is a little bit dumber than posts. They can only have content, not intelligent content. Then we have comments, which means if people post comments on our posts, then you can see those comments underneath the post. So yeah, you can actually approve your comments before it goes on the site. Most websites do not allow comments unless it's a blog. Then of course you want 1,001 comments for anything you post. Then we have the appearance. This menu is very important because it has to do with the look of the site and what is displayed in which positions of the site. So things like your menu, things like the top header of the site, things like widgets that will appear on the sides of the site. Then we've got the plugins. And like I said, this is where you plug in additional technology to your site. Then you have the users menu, where you would create users that can maybe have admin access, or they can just add posts, or you have different user levels. And then you have the tools, which is like exporting your data from your site or importing specific data. Then you have the settings for the site, just some general settings for writing, reading, discussion, general, and so on. And that's it. This is the basics of WordPress. Okay, so it's in its purest form. There's no additional bells and whistles that's been installed with the site yet. So let's start by creating a simple post. Now, we said that posts need to have categories. We know that we're going to do a story. Let's check here. There's blog post. There's going to be a story on the essential gear. There's going to be a story on the time commitment. And that's it. Those two little stories. Sorry, I forgot to change the appearance. Okay, just hold on. So not posts. Let's just quickly jump to the appearance and customize the appearance, because we want the site to have like a top header of a guy swimming here. Okay, instead of just plain like that. So every theme will have multiple settings according to that theme that can be changed for the look. So over here, you'll see there's the colors for the site, the background image, the menus, the widgets. So this theme that we chose, 2014, has these settings. Some of the more complex themes, like the one we'll look at later, has thousands of settings. There's so many things that you can customize. So here we're just going to do a little header image. And it takes us to our media library, where we can upload some images. And let's go grab a little image of a swimmer here. There it is, and open. And the media environment here will give us the opportunity to crop our image. And we can create a cropped version. Hold on. Oh, that's way too big. Hold on. Okay, it's not giving me that little crop button now. Damn it. Okay, we'll skip the cropping for now, but you get the idea. If we went to Photoshop or a graphic program, we could have created a top bar to have any look we wanted. Maybe we wanted the company logo there, or maybe we wanted a few shots next to each other of the swimmers, the cyclists, and the runners. We could create our own little top header and put that in as the header of the site. I'm going to hide that one, and we'll just work with it like this. So once your changes is finished here, you publish. And we're going to go back to posts, and now we're going to create our categories. So a possible category would be running, add category, then cycling, and swimming, and latest news. Now, the reason we're doing this, which you will see much later when we do the big theme, is, let's say, for instance, we have a number of posts on swimming, and there's a swimming page on the site where we want that information to feed through automatically. Then we can just tell WordPress, well, on that page, just put everything where I've marked the category swimming, and it will put that on that specific page. But we haven't built any posts yet. So now we go to add new. And let's do our first post here. essential gear. And we drop the copy in. And there's my first post. Now from this WYSIWYG editor, you can do all kinds of things like make the text bold, make it italic. You can take a specific word, let's say cycling, and you can link it out to a website. Apply. So it's a simple little WYSIWYG editor, which is similar to Word. Okay, you can also center a line, right a line, you get the idea. You can make bullets, numbers, and there's a second level to this. If you toggle the rest of the menu, where you can color the text, where you can indent the text, and so on. So there's two levels of control over the look. Now, something else you need to remember about posts is over on the right-hand side. At the moment, this post is not published or updated. So if we publish it, it becomes live on the site. Also, we have not selected a category. So maybe we want this, which has to do with the essential gear, which has to do with all of those categories. We want it under latest news, and we want it under running, swimming, and cycling. And there's one last thing we have to do. We have to set a featured image so that the image would appear above or with the story. So let's go and upload another image. And we will take this image for the essential gear. It hasn't been resized, so it just depends on how the theme is going to feed it through. And now our first post is ready. So we publish that. Okay, what's going to happen on my site? If I refresh, there's my first story. Okay, so every post will show at the moment according to the home page, which is the blog page essentially. We haven't created an actual page yet, so it's just showing me all the latest posts. Can you see that this image we should have gone to Photoshop and made it a little bit bigger to fit properly? But let's use it like that. Now let's add another post. Notice that if you make changes to this post, you need to update it again, because over on all your posts, you'll be able to access those posts again. So let's add another one. The time commitment. And again, we can of course do all of our formatting bits. If we wanted a image gallery in here, we could have said add media, and we can add a whole bunch of photos. And it creates a little gallery for us of all the images. Okay, nothing fancy, just straightforward. And then this one, we want to mark it as latest news, and maybe not for any of the other categories. And then we must remember to set the featured image. And now we can publish it. Now we should have two stories on our homepage, the latest one being at the top, and then underneath it, we'll have the second story. So our page just becomes one long page with the latest stories. This Hello World one, we don't need anymore. That was just one that came with WordPress, so we can delete that one. And there you can see Hello World, and we can just trash it. Okay, does posts make sense? Who's got questions on posts? Nothing. Cool. So next up, let's set up our pages for our site. Pages does not have categories, So we're going to go to all pages, and there we can see the pages. And our first page is going to be, was there anything on the home page? Yeah. So let's do a page called home page. So we add a new page. So we'll call it home page. All right. And we just drop the copy in there. Cool. You can make that pretty later. There's no featured image here because remember, it's not a post. So we're not going to put in a featured image for the page. And now we just publish that page. Let's add another one. And we'll take the information of the show. And publish. And then the features. Then about us. And the last one, contact us. And publish. So very simple, no beautiful layout or anything at this stage. It's pretty straightforward site. And if we now go to the front end, you'll notice something. There's my menu. So my site now has every one of those pages that I've created is automatically on the site, but I've got sample page here as well, which I don't want. So back on my all pages panel, let's delete that one. And lastly, remember when we went to the home URL, we had the posts that showed on the home page. What if we want our home page, the actual home page that we're building, we want that displayed as the first page of the website. So we go back to appearance, because remember it has to do with appearance, and we go back to customize. And we say, go to homepage settings, and we say, don't load the latest posts on the homepage. Load a static page. And which page? The homepage we created, which just had those details on it. Okay. So let's publish this. And now we can go out. Now next, what if we wanted our own menu structure here? We wanted about us, contact us to be at the end. We want the information, the features to be actually a sublink of information. That's got to do with what? Which of these? Appearance. So we'll dive into menus, and it's telling me that it's automatically at the moment feeding all the pages through to that menu. So we want to create a new menu. That's our own menu, and we'll call this the main menu. Create menu. And now it shows me all the pages on my site over on the left, all the pages I've created. So I can now add all of them to the menu. Now I can start swapping them around. The contact us page is supposed to be later on in the menu. The features is supposed to be a sublink of information. So look at that. If I drag it forward, it becomes a submenu link. Now, just another tip for you. What if you wanted, instead of information and features, we wanted a link or a top link here that said about the show with a drop down, because obviously people won't click on about the show, they'll click on the drop down option. So we create an empty link. It's called a custom link here. And the link only goes to a hash, which means it's not an active link. And we can say here the show, add to menu. And that one can now go here, and information as well as features become a submenu link of the show. Does that make sense? And save. And if we refresh, there's our menu. Wait, we haven't assigned that new menu. So we need to tell WordPress to use our new menu. So we go back to the appearance, customize. And we tell it that its menu is the menu I just created. And we select that as the primary menu. Publish. Back. Refresh. And look at that. Now I have a drop down with those additional pages. Okay. Is it still making sense, guys? Are you still with me? Give us a clap if you understand. Okay, that's good. So next up, you can see that we're very quickly actually creating a site here. What about the side panels? We want some additional things here on the side panels. These are called widgets. Okay, and they also has to do with the appearance of the site. So if we go to widgets, it gives us at the moment that it's got in the primary sidebar, which is this sidebar. It has a recent posts and it has the comments. On the content sidebar, it has the archives and the categories. You can see the archives and categories. So there we can jump to our different categories of content that we created earlier. And underneath it, there's nothing in the footer and there's no inactive widgets. So let's bring in another one in the content area and one in here. Now there's a number of widgets that WordPress comes out with. So we can say under the comments, we want a new one, and it tells me these are the basic ones you can put in there. I can put in an image, a category, custom HTML, paragraph, social icons, or a calendar, but there's more. If we say browse all, look at all the different things that you can put into that sidebar. Okay, so lots and lots of options. We're just going to do a simple little calendar on that one. And we'll do on the content side, let's put in some custom HTML. So where will I get custom HTML? Let's go to YouTube. Remember those embed codes? If you've never heard of embed code, YouTube can do an embed code. So if we say, yeah, we want EnduroFit. There's a video of EnduroFit.
Our vision.
So underneath, under your share command, is the embed code. This is the HTML code to display this video on your website. You can do that with any YouTube video. So we're going to copy that. And we'll drop the code into that box. And now we can update our page. Let's see what it looks like. Here's my new calendar, and there's my video clip that can run straight on the page. All right, let's see where we're at. Now, at the moment, we built a very basic site, but we already put the content on there. We have some categories, we have some posts, we have some pages, but there's something that our site lacks, and that's extra functionality, which is your plugins. Okay, now I just want to stop here for a moment. So plugins. Plugins, like we said, is additional functionality for your site. It's not developed by WordPress. It's developed by third-party people. It's people like you and me. We just did a site for Capital Works, and we had to develop this whole pop-up thing. I'll show you. Where there's the Teams page, and when you click on a team member, it had to have this pop-up. That's not functionality that comes with WordPress. It is something that we developed as a plugin. Now, there is, like I said, probably 32,000 plugins available. So whatever you can think of is available for WordPress. You'll find it. This is probably for me, the most exciting part of developing a website, because the client will say to you, I want a form on the site where people can contact me, or I want a nice animated slider at the top, which has different images swapping around the whole time, or I want a way for people to upload their CVs. What else can I think of? Give me some examples. What do you guys want for functionalities? You can think of a functionality that somebody might want.
A pop-up for a special promotion?
Yes, so that would be a plugin that can do sort of a pop-up script. That's a good example. What else, guys? How about a social sharing plugin? Or how about a SEO plugin that makes it possible for Google to find your site and to list your site properly? There's so many of them that you need to think of, that when you start planning the website, you must say, what exact functionality should there be with the site? Now, I'm going to give you some tips here. I always use a plugin that's called duplicate page. The reason for that is I might spend hours creating a look for a home page. And then I think, well, I can use some of that structure that I've built and use it on the contact us page, for instance. So I duplicate that page with its whole structure and then create the custom page from there. So that's a great plugin. And I'm going to go to plugins, add new, and it gives me the database of all 32,000. You can do a search here for anything. I'm going to say your duplicate page. And if I can spell correctly, there's duplicate page. Now, here, the other thing you need to remember, because these plugins is written by third-party companies, you need to read the instructions. So say that with me. Read the instructions of the plugins. say it 5 times, because every plugin works differently. And if you're going to download a plugin and try and figure it out, like I normally do, you're going to bump your head. Some of them have a lot of functionality. This one, for instance, all it does, if you read the instructions, is under pages, you'll now see this little link, duplicate this. Okay, and that page can be duplicated. That's all that little plugin does. Now, if we add another one, let's look at what Shannon said. Let's say pop-up promotion. Let's see if we get anything like that. Look how many there are. Just for pop-ups, simple image pop-up, WooCommerce pop-ups, WP window maker. That's one page of 4 pages. And this page has already what? 50 on it. So you can imagine that's 120 solutions for a pop-up. So now we look for something, pop-up maker. This sounds cool, but I want to know how it will look on my website. So I go to more details and it tells me everything about that pop-up, how it would work. And it will even show you screenshots. So there's your little pop-up promotion. You can have a form in it. There's the different screens and how you set it up in the back end. There's also the installation instructions. So see why it's imperative to actually go and read up on the plugin first. And a lot of times, you know, you will get to this stage and you'll say, well, that sounds like it's going to work for the site, but let's see what else is out there. So, you know, a client might have said to you, do a pop-up. Now you come across a plugin that has 10 times as much functionality. So you can go back to the client and say, but we can do this and this and this as well. And then you buy that plugin. When it comes to plugins, this is where you start paying for WordPress. And when it comes to themes as well, then you need to pay. But WordPress in its basic form, we didn't pay any money for it up to this stage. Okay. Now this one looks quite cool. So let's install it. A lot of times we install a plugin and it just doesn't do what we want. So we just go and deactivate the plugin and we look for a different one. Okay, now the plugin is installed and now activated. Okay, so there's my pop-up maker. What do I need to do? View details. Go to their homepage, read up on it. So if I go to this link, go and study exactly how that pop-up maker works. Okay, it shows you some nice examples of what you can do, and it tells you exactly how to bring it into your site. And this is what a pop-up would look like. So what else happened? If I read the instructions, I'll know that there's now a new menu item on the left where I can control my pop-ups. Now, I don't know how this one works, so we'll have to figure it out. So this one needs an API, so we'll have to register with them to get that API code. And then we have the templates. There's all the templates for my pop-ups. There's a help screen, and there's your instructions that you need to go and look at. And there's the settings for the pop-up. Okay, so chances are that if you connect your API key, you create the pop-up in here, and then you tell it to on which page you want it to pop up. Okay, so I'm not going to read the instructions for this one now, but you get the idea. Let's go back to our plugins. Another plugin, which is incredibly important, make a mental note of this. Always, always install WordFence. WordFence is security plugin for your website. WordPress sites gets hacked daily. Okay, so when you create this site, the next day the client says to you, my site is down, it's a disaster. Okay, so So make sure that you install WordFence. What it does is it blocks any program, because remember, hackers write programs that want to access your, they just want to break into the site. It's called a little robot, and it just goes around the web, looks for WordPress site, and they break it. What they gain from it is purely to say that they can write something like that. It's really ridiculous. Some hackers will actually hold you at ransom and say to you, we'll put your site back for $50 or $500, whatever. But WordFence can block those attacks, and it's free. Okay, so with WordFence, just install it, activate it. And it will ask you, where does it send the notifications if there's security breaches? And I don't want to receive that. And I agree to that. And I don't want the premium version. Okay, so no thanks. Now, WordFence appeared on the left. Can you see how every plugin is creating a site menu option? So for those of you that work on existing sites, go and look at all the plugins that site is using by going on the left menu and checking and asking yourself, what is that functionality for? Why did they actually install it? And it's obviously somewhere on the site that they're using some functionality in that plugin. So it's about figuring out why. And then, of course, reading the instructions for that plugin so that you can use it yourself. Okay, so WordFence, a good one. Another good one. We want to do the search engine optimization of our site. The best plugin for that is Yoast SEO. I will put this in your email this afternoon, the ones that I recommend. And we install this one. What this one does is underneath your pages, where you create the pages, it makes it possible for you to change the title and the description of that page. Why? Because if we do a search here and we say, business, or let's say InDesign course, and a page comes up, look at that title and that description. We want to change those descriptions. That's why you would use a plugin like Yoast SEO. Okay, so let's go back to our page and activate it. What's the golden rule? Say it 5 times again. Read the instructions. Instructions would tell you that that plugin underneath a page will create this bar. And in this bar, you can now create your site title, your page title, and you can set your description for that page. Okay, so great one. I never create a website without Yoast SEO at least. Can anybody think of another plugin that they can possibly want? How about a graphic slider? So there's a plugin called Revolution Slider. Let me show you what it looks like. It's the best one. Slider Revolution, sorry. It's the best one for creating top bar animations for your website. See these sort of top bars with moving content, with video content, with any kind of layering from Photoshop. It can do. It goes on and on. You can do maps on your little sliders. It's an incredible plugin. I always put it on a site as well. If you buy the right theme, then they already they come with that theme as well. The Slider Revolution will be bundled with the theme that you would buy. Guys, I'm not going to install this one because the gem is going to install it for us. So let's go back. And what about a form? We want a form on the contact us page. So a great plugin for that is Ninja Forms. I can create a little simple contact form where they put in their name, the details. You can add additional fields. You can put radio boxes, check boxes, whatever you want on that form. And you'll see now Ninja Forms is also going to add a little menu item. And if I read the instructions for that plugin, I'll know that I go into the dashboard. Most of them, if you have this option on the plugin, you'll see there's get help. Okay, so if you don't know where to get the instructions, you just go there. So let's go to its dashboard. And it says to me there's a contact form that's already created. I could create my own form here, but I'm going to go into contact me. And there's what the form would look like on my site. Maybe I want to ask them for their phone number as well. So I add an additional field, and it's supposed to be a text field. Bring it in here. And we'll call this phone number. And done. Good. There it asks all the details. Under your actions, you can now tell it to send that form data to yourself. So you put in the email address over there. Again, guys, read the instruction manual for the plugin and you'll know how it works. So if I go back now, it says to me, I need to copy this short code wherever on the site I want that form. Shannon, I'll answer you in a moment. So I'm going to copy this. So a lot of plugins use shortcodes. So it creates in the plugin the content, but then you need to use a shortcode and just go paste the shortcode wherever you want it to appear. So let's go put it on our contact us page. And we'll put it underneath the content here. We just drop our shortcode in there, save our page. And if we now go to our contact us page, yay, we have a contact us form. It's as simple as that. So that's, yeah, it's a plugin, I know, but guys, it's going to take you 10 minutes to read the instructions and you'll know how to put it in. So Shannon, once you have purchased the plugin, it's available to use without subscription fees. So a one-time purchase only. It depends. It depends on the plugin. Each plugin, a lot of them have free functionality. And then if you want the additional functionality, you have to pay for that. So like Ninja Forms has add-on functionality, there it is. But Ninja Forms was free. But if you want the additional functionality, look how many additional things it can do. PDF form submissions, file uploads, Excel export, PayPal and Stripe if you need to take payments. It goes on and on and on and on. For these, you will pay. Okay, plugins is not expensive, guys. Use plugins that's paid for rather. Because remember, the cheap ones, the free ones, is the ones that will break easily. WordPress is constantly updated, which I'll tell you later on. And if you don't choose somebody with a good reputation for plugins, then they will not update the plugin every time that there's an iteration. So I always budget quite a bit for plugins when I quote the client, because they, you know, that's where the where the cost lies for a plugin. And remember, you need to go and figure out this plugin. So if the plugin's cost is $35, you're not going to charge the client $35. You're going to charge the client $150 because you need to go and sit and figure it out and get it to work properly with the site. And that's how you quote for a website as well. That's where the work comes in, because you need to go and develop it into the site. And a lot of them, some of them you pay for once, or like this one, you have a membership, you pay yearly to use that plugin. So the paid for version for WordFence, for instance, is 1,200 Rand, which you pay once a year. Other plugins like Slider Revolution is $50 a year. So it just depends on, go do your research properly on their pricing. Some of them is very expensive, but it just depends on the functionality. We did a site once, it was for this EnduroFit conference. They wanted tickets for the door where people register on the site, they pay, and they then get a ticket with a QR code. Yo, that's a hectic one. So we went and we found a plugin which was like, it was 6,000 Rand for that plugin, but the functionality was perfect for what that client wanted. And obviously for something like that, you would pay quite a lot of money. Yes, Verona.
I just want to know, there's quite a bit of updates coming through on plugins. Sometimes it wreaks havoc on your website. Can you go back to a previous version of a plugin if it does something to your website you don't want it to do?
It's such a loaded question there, y'all, because I do this all the time. When you update a plugin, let's say for instance, WordPress. What WordPress does is they update their code every 6 months, which means you get a new version of WordPress every 6 months. And with that WordPress update, the plugin supplier needs to update their code as well. If they do it wrong, or it conflicts with your theme, then it will break your site, or it will, like you say, it will make havoc on your site. There's no way to go back to a previous version of the plugin. The only way to do it then is to go and deactivate that plugin. So we can go into plugins and we deactivate it. So that functionality is no longer available on the site. If you do get something like that, Brona, what you could do is Google the exact error that you get. Possibilities are, like, for instance, if you run your site now and it says to you, there's an error code here at the top. Take that whole error code, copy it into Google and search, because chances are somebody has come across that problem already and they'll tell you how to fix it. This happens 90% of the time. If we get issues with plugins, then we will find an answer like that. Or remember, you paid for that plugin. Contact the creator of that plugin and tell them it's not working with my WordPress. They will sort it out for you, because that's exactly what you pay for. Also, just remember, if you forget where you got the plugin, then go to your plugins page. There's view details, or there's all their websites, and you can contact them to find out. Okay, does it help?
Great, yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. But also on that note, guys, use the plugins that is paid for. That's good plugins. When it comes to quoting on a site, for instance, when we do a WordPress site, our average price would be, if for a small site, you maybe start for 5,000, but for a proper website, it would go up to 35,000 Rand. That site is 15,000 Rand plugins. The rest is the customization of the look, the theme cost. There's a lot of cost involved in creating a proper site. We're busy with a hedge fund in Luxembourg. We're doing their website. It's called Titon Capital. And that site cannot fail at all. Okay, because you can imagine what if an international crowd comes to that site and anything fails, there's havoc. something like, Natasha, I can imagine if MTN site fails, can you imagine the repercussions? So you would be spending top dollar on the absolute best plugins that you can find. And on that note, guys, when you do a site and you're unsure and you just want my advice, drop me an email, or and we can just arrange a call, and I'll give you some advice on some good plugins, even on themes and things. And you might say, well, I'm going to take this route, or I'm going to go with Elementor. I can definitely give you some guidance on what would be the best ones to do. As a rule, in our studio, we work with a little box of tricks where we always use the same plugins, because we've been doing this for 20 years and we know which plugins is going to work well with any site. Okay, so what else? Any other questions on plugins? I'm sorry, I'm just looking at some more that I might mention here. There's one that I love. We created a site. Let me just find it. NTFN. NFTN. Can you believe it? Hold on. Okay, it was this one where we spent a lot of time creating the initial look of the site. So even the animations and everything. And then we said, well, let's use the same look as a theme for this site. The look stays the same, the bar changed a bit, but we used the same principle of the polygons or whatever. And we just, further modified the rest of the look. Now, in that case, there's a plugin that works tremendously well, and it's called Duplicate. If ever you need to duplicate a site, you contact me, because it's going to save you years of time. If you can just use the same setup, the same functionality, the same pages that you've built, and just change it to the content of that client. So it's called Duplicator. It's very easy to work with. It makes a backup of the site, and it gives you installation files which you would upload to the other server where the other site is hosted, and it makes an exact mirror copy that you can then go and customize. Great plugin. Verona, another question. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know where that came from. Somehow it's raising my hand without me knowing it. Sorry.
No, cool. Let me go ahead. Okay, so Duplicator also a great plugin. Which other ones? UST we've done, Classic Editor we've done. Yeah, that's a good start. That's a good start. Maybe a client will say to you they want a video type gallery. Ooh, let's look at that. There's probably hundreds available of that. Yeah, look how many there are. 29 pages with 50 on each page. So, like I said, it's really my favorite part of going to look for functionality and what's possible. Okay, now we're going to dive into themes, which is going to keep us busy for the rest of the day. Now, hold on for me. Now for my favorite part, themes. Remember when we installed our theme, we went to the backend and we went to appearance, themes, and we just loaded a very simple one from WordPress. Those are not proper themes. They're just a little look of the site. When it comes to proper themes, you install the theme before you start adding your posts and your pages. You decide on a theme. And there's some powerful, powerful themes out there. You can go and do a search, WordPress themes. There will be probably hundreds of thousands. There's companies that develop these themes. Theme forests, for instance, carry thousands and thousands of themes. And the thing with these themes, obviously you pay for them, but they come packed with plugins and functionality. They extend the site to such an extent that in that arena, you're stepping into the development part, not just the design anymore. You're now developing a full system. It's a difference between a 20,000 Rand website and a 300,000 Rand website, because now you're implementing all the power of WordPress combined with whatever that company developed. Now, there is one rule I can give you right now. When you buy a theme, go study that theme extensively. When we opened our web division, I told all the designers, we're going to start developing on Avada. Avada is one such theme. And I gave them a day off to go and study Avada from corner to corner, everything. Because understanding exactly how that theme works and how the plugins works for it is imperative. And if you've used one theme in developing one site, then you're going to use that theme again because you know that theme. So get a theme that's really powerful, study it properly, and it will take you a full day to understand your theme and its functionality if you choose a really good one. Avada's great. It comes with all these demos. And a demo means you can import a look for a site and then go and change everything. So for instance, if you get a request to do a restaurant website, they'll probably have a theme here for a restaurant. You can go look. There's about a food. Let's see if there's a restaurant one here. And the cool thing about the preloaded themes is, here's a cafe one. Let's go look at this one. The preloaded themes is imported to have the exact same look. That means when you install the theme, you can import all of the settings to make the site look exactly like this. And then you go and you change the logo. And then you go in here and you change the images and you change the text. So you make it the look fit that client's needs. So a lot of times what we do is if a client comes to us and says we want the site, we send them the link to 3 of these looks and say, which functionality of these demos do you like the best? And we will develop the site on that. And a good example is like this theme. This is a simple little lifestyle theme with the 4 images, and the client liked this look of the 4 images at the top. And of course, this is just a simple blog for lifestyle. So we took this theme and we developed an electricity supply in Namibia. They call it Irongo Red. We developed their site. Can you see the style is the same? And then we, of course, brought in a whole bunch of extra plugin functionalities and things for the rest of the site. But the theme look, instead of starting with a blank page, if you start with that import look, then it's easy to go and figure out how the page is going to look. And it will take time. One of the girls that was in the previous class, she works for Stellenbosch University, and she had to redo their whole site. And I showed her the gem, which is what I'm going to show you guys. And I showed her Elementor. It still took her a good 50 hours to go and complete that site. But I said to her, go and study the gem, go and study the plugins, Elementor. And if you don't, you're going to sit for hours to try and figure it out. Okay, but let's look at another one. So Avada's good, if ever you want to try that one. The one I've sent you with your course files was the gem and Elementor. The gem is the theme. What is that? It's the parrot's feathers. It's going to make the site look the way it does. The plugins used with that theme, there's quite a few. And if you read properly under their page, they tell you exactly what plugins and things is available. There it says that it uses Elementor. Elementor is a page builder. There's lots of other ones. There's WP Bakery. There's Avada has their own one called Fusion Builder. It just depends on, they all have a similar look and functionality, but it just depends on what your theme is going to use. So don't confuse the theme with the plugins that theme uses. Now, the gem also comes with hundreds of pre-built looks. You don't have to use them, but they are available, and I'll show you how to import them. Let's say we're building a business site, and this business and IT event, we can go and look at a demo of what this looks like. You get all these demos with the theme, whether you're going to use them or not. Okay, and you might say, well, this is actually exactly what I'm looking for my client. There's a slider here at the top, and there's changing of pictures. There's even video at the top bar. And then I can take this clock out, and maybe I can do 3 icons here of the services they offer. And where it says where, I can do something else. And I can, you can customize anything, but it gives you that pre-built look, which makes it just easier to figure it out. These days, I prefer to build them from scratch in the gem rather than to load a demo, but I'll show you both techniques. Okay, so the gem you pay for, I bought the license for you guys this morning, which was 900 Rand. It's a once-off payment. Unlike the plugins that might have subscriptions, your themes have a once-off payment and you get a purchase code with it. Now let's see, I've downloaded it and they gave me this file with everything on that theme, and I'm going to unzip it. Normally, a good theme, a proper theme that you pay for will come with proper instructions. There's all the documentation for that theme. There's the Elementor version. There's the WP Bakery version. There's your license codes, everything. Demo sliders, things that you can import, everything is there. So read the instructions, read the documentation. With this one, they tell you to install the gem Elementor. And it's a zip file. They will tell you in the documentation, don't worry. And I know I keep referring back to read your documentation, but guys, it really is important. The best part of developing a WordPress site is to figure things out. In my graphic design courses, I say to people, well, you're going to do InDesign, so this is the steps. In WordPress and in web development, it's not like that. Every situation is different, but figuring it out is the fun part of web development. Okay, now we can install this. And this theme is doing nothing. Let's see. Let's give it a moment. It's a big file. Now remember, we said that that theme comes packed with plugins. So when we install the theme, it's going to tell us that there's additional plugins we need to install with it. Okay, there's my theme. It's installed. Okay, it says the theme is already installed. Cool. And now I can go to my themes. And there's the gem theme. So remember, this is the look we had. Now I activate the gem. It's going to warn us, right? We need the purchase code. So I'm going to use it. It's one. You can only use it once. Unfortunately, you can't go and use that theme code on a different site again. And then it's going to tell us, cool, it's activated. But then it says there's a number of plugins that come with it. Now, this afternoon in your email, I will send you a tutorial or the documentation link for the gem that you can go and study, as well as a YouTube tutorial for Elementor, because you're going to see me working on Elementor now. And it's, yes, it's magic. It's magic, but you need to also study that properly. So here it tells me all of these plugins is useful or is needed for the gem. So I'm going to skip the layer slide. I'm not going to use it. We're going to use Revolution slider, which I mentioned earlier. We're going to use these little guys. WordPress page widgets I don't really need, and Zilla likes I don't need. Let's go with these, and I'll just install them. If you're unsure, just install all of them. It's not going to make a difference. Whether, you know, it's just whether you use it or not. Now look how many plugins we're simultaneously installing. So our menu, of course, on the left is going to change completely now to have all of these new plugins. It's going to take a bit of time, yeah. Give it a few more minutes. You know, any questions on theme so long while this is installing? Remember, if you're unsure of which theme as well, the site is, for those of you that's working on a site already, if you're unsure of which theme it's using, just go to appearance and themes and then check, you know, which theme is currently active, because then you can go and just read up on that theme. Okay, now there's all of our plugins installed. Good. So if we now do a refresh, look how many menu options we will now have. Wow, look how many things was added. We've got testimonials, custom titles, custom footers. We've got Elementor, templates. That's all. There's Slider Revolution as well. Good. Let me make a note here. Slider Revolution is another great one that you can go and watch a tutorial on, which I'll send you. It's brilliant for animation. Now let's start with the theme. If we look at our site again, the parrot's feathers have now changed, and the site looks like this. Doesn't look like much, but my menu already looks a lot better. And we have a top bar. We maybe want an image here, and then we want these in 3 little blocks. We want it to look professional here. First thing is, look at all the settings that the gem has. Under the gem menu, there's all of these options. And starting with the theme options is where you will set up everything like your fonts, your colors, your layout. Do you want a boxed website? Do you want a body frame? Do you want the main contact area to have padding? I'm going to take that off already. Do you want smooth scroll? Do you want a preload? That's just one of these. Then the logo. We want to go and load up EnduraFit logo. And we'll grab that logo. And it's going to tell us, what do you want to use for the desktop logo? Let's choose same logo. What do you want to use for the sticky menu? Remember the sticky menu is when the site scrolls down. See how that menu stays at the top. So we'll use the logo again. Then it says for the mobile logo, yes, we want the same logo. It's actually just resizing the logo for us for each device. And then what do we want for the favicon? The favicon is this little icon that you see at the top of a website. So that was the identity. There's a little save button. So I'm saving the settings. Then it goes on to menu and header for each page, which in the case of the gem is this, this menu area and the header area over here. So all the settings for that. So we can say, we want the menu over here, or we actually want this cool hamburger effect. Read the instructions. It'll tell you all the cool things that you can do. What's the alignment of the links at the top? Does it have to be spread out to the full screen? Is it justified? Do I want the top area? The top area is this gray bar here. So I can deactivate that. Do I want a menu? Yes, I do. Do I want a website search button? Yes. Good. So that's just another menu option. Then you've got typography. What is the main menu font? What is the hover colors? What is the submenu font? Then you have the colors of the site, every possible color. So if you can have corporate colors, you can put them in there. What's the title area going to look like? You can see that this just goes on and on. What will the footer look like? A lot of hours is spent setting this up before you start actually going in and editing pages. What's a typography? So remember, in a website, there's 6 different sizes of headings. Here you can tell it exactly what font and how it should look. Then the rest of the colors on the site, the icons, pagination. Okay, I think you get the idea. There's contacts and social. What social media buttons should be shown at the bottom of the pages or in the share links. And then they even have space for your tracking code, your Google Analytics tracking code that you can put in here. So yeah, as a theme, that's its main settings. And if we now look, because we put in the logo and we remove the top bar, boom, now we've got the company logo. Our pages is ready. There's really not much we did on these pages. They are just straightforward pages. Okay, so we are going to work on the home page for the rest of our session and just improve this look so that you can understand Elementor. So again, the theme is the overall rules for the look. When it comes to Elementor, it has to do with the look of the content of the page. Now, earlier, when we did the simple version of the site, what did we see? If we take, for instance, the home page, we had this very limited little editor, and we couldn't do a lot of magic here. With Elementor, because we've plugged in Elementor, it now says edit with Elementor. So we can dive to a WYSIWYG editor where we can make the page look any way that we want to. But I first want to do something here. In the documentation, it will tell you that for each page, you can control what shows on that page in terms of the menu and in terms of the title. Now, on the home page, I don't want this home page to show. This is called the title area of the page. So we can switch off the title area. We can disable it just for that page. And now we update that page. And if we refresh, the title area is gone. Cool. Now, I'm going to dive into Elementor, and it's going to change the screen completely. Now, Elementor, you need a good understanding of it. I'm going to give you an overview, and the tutorial I'll send you is an hour and a half just on exactly how it works, but you'll understand already the functionality once I've shown you all the cool bits here. So you can see now we're actually seeing the front end of the website. It's our first page of our website. And over on the left, we've got a lot of options and a lot of really cool things we can do. Each one of them has their own functionality. It's almost like little widgets of content that you're throwing onto your site. Now, something else to remember, let me just quickly check something here. The look that we want for the site is going to be full width look. Reason for that is we want an image to spread all the way to the side of the page. So we're telling that page to use the gem full width. Okay. Again, if you don't know where to, well, how I know that, it's in the documentation. Now we can dive into Elementor. And I can start creating the look for the site. So it's going to start. Now there is space here, which we can take out later, but let's see the way Elementor looks at a page. In web design, we think of content of a website as blocks of content. Those blocks can have different blocks in them. So they can have intersections, as Elementor calls it. So a block can be divided into 3 equal sized blocks. And why? Because a site, a website needs to be responsive. So Elementor even shows you the iPad version and the cell phone version of that site. So it makes it possible for you to build all 3 versions. Now, if we have blocks of content, the reason we have blocks is if a page is on a cell phone, those blocks have to go underneath each other. If it's on the desktop, they go next to each other. So you must always bear in mind, your site might not look the same on the cell phone that it does on the desktop. And you need to develop all 3 versions of it. So remember, when you quote, you're not just building a desktop website, you're building a mobile and an iPad version or a tablet version. Now, back to the blocks, you'll see if I move over the page, I get the first block. It is site-wide, and in it, there is a column of text, or just a column. But in that column is a text box. So there's 3 levels: the column, after this section, then the column, then whatever's inside that. So if I said I want to start this page first with a heading, I can drag in that heading and snap it in there. Okay, then maybe afterwards I want a button, or I want a button underneath this text. Boom. And there's my button. And maybe I'll get to the formatting in a moment. So can you see that in that one column, I keep throwing whatever elements I want for the look from the left-hand side. You get a lot with the basic Elementor. With Elementor Pro, there's some additional ones, but guys, don't buy Elementor Pro because the gem comes with its own additional elements already. Look at all those cool elements. Okay, now, you know, when you build your first website, go and experiment with what they do. It's really, really amazing. And each one of them, as you drag your content in, will have certain rules to it. So if I look at this heading that I got here, can you see that when I scroll over it, there's this little pencil? And if I click the pencil, it gives me the settings for that specific block of the heading. And it says to me, this is the text. So I can say, yeah, welcome to Durofit. And I can change the size. Maybe let's make it medium is too small. I can make it large, but I can change the heading size here. There's different levels. Or if I still want to, I can now center align this. And that's the basic settings. But there's the content settings, there's the style settings, and there's the advanced settings. For each element you drop on a web page, all of those settings are available. It's always content, style, advanced, and they do exactly what they say. Content is what's in the box. Style is what it looks like. I want the text color to be blue. The same in Durofit blue. Let's pick a similar blue. Do I want to change the font here? Typography. There's all the Google fonts that you can choose. Let's choose Helvetica. I can change the size of the font, the weight, blah, 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 blah. It just goes on and on. Do I want the text shadow? No. Advanced. Do I want a margin? Margins and padding is important, which I'll explain later. Do I want some animation? How about when the page opens up, I want that to fade in. Cool. How long should it take? Do I want a background for that one block? Do I want a border? And so on and so on and so on. So the advanced menu is always the same for each element, but the style and the content will differ according to the element. Let's see it in practice now. We have one block of content. If we click the plus, look at these three buttons. This one will erase that block completely with all of its content. This one is to edit the section, and if I right click, I can even duplicate a section completely, and I can now change it slightly, which is really great because maybe you spent an hour just on this section, and now underneath it you want to do something similar, but you want to remove this block. Great. Okay, let's delete that. Or we can click on plus, which would add another. Now we're adding a section above it, and it's telling us what section do you want to add. I want to plus. Is it a full length? Is it 3 columns? Whatever the case may be. Let's put a full column in. And what do we want in that column? So now we go to the settings for that column, and we say, well, the height should be about 400 pixels. And we want, under style, a background slideshow. And what images do we want in there? Let's give it a couple of images. I should resize this in Photoshop, but we're going to use it. We want it to change between those 3 images every few seconds. Insert gallery, boom. And we have a little top bar that changes every few seconds. Okay, that one image is horrible. Let's just choose something else there. don't know if I had that one already. And now I have twice. Okay, use your imagination. You understand. So 3 different images, they will scroll through every 5 seconds. So that looks cool. And maybe we want to give it a slight background overlay to make it just a little bit darker. Cool. And then now we can start adding content. So we can say in here, I want a divider. I want a little white line there. Go style, white, and not the full width of the page, just 50%. Oh no, sorry, that's the width of the line. Okay, let's use it like that and make it 50%. Center aligned. Good. Underneath that, I want some text. Ipsum, blah, 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 blah. And more text. And we want that text to be style, center aligned. We want it to be white. See how brilliantly easy this is. We want the size of the text bigger. And underneath that, I want that white line again. So instead of dragging it in again, any element on my page, I can right click and duplicate, and then just drag it into place. Good. Maybe we put a sports quote in there or something like that. And maybe we want this text to animate. So we go advanced. Nice. Now, when you make your changes, if you want to see it on the front of your page, you have to update it here at the bottom. Okay, so Elementor, even though it goes into this front page look, to get back to WordPress, we go click here and we say exit to dashboard, and we're back in the back end of our website. So remember, each time you come to a page and you edit it with Elementor, there's the edit. Now let's check our front page. What does it look like now? Cool, starting to look like something. We don't want this space over here. I just want to see where we can remove that. That's probably an option on the page. No, it's not. Maybe it's a theme option. You know, things like that, like finding just that bit of space. I sometimes go through here and I'll play around with settings for half an hour just to find it. And then when you find it, you feel so accomplished that you managed to figure that out. There we go. Yay. Very cool. Okay. Next, we want to create, let's think about this. We had posts, those posts of the images we created earlier. We had the time commitment and the essential gear, which both sit under latest news. Now, how about, I'm going to duplicate another one of them just so that we have 3 of them. And let's say this was a different story. And maybe this story was called the new Nike range. And I changed the text, changed the featured image. and we publish. And you'll notice we used Elementor on the pages. You can also use it on the posts. But a lot of times, because posts are just news stories, we don't go and do complex layouts for them unless we really want to. It's the pages that we want to format and make beautiful. Now, what I'm trying to do here is bring in, when people arrive at the site, we want 3 blocks underneath it that shows the latest news according to the posts we have here. Now, all 3 of those isn't latest news. So we can ask WordPress to, through Elementor, drag in our little news stories to sit on the homepage. So we're going to go back to the homepage. And edit with Elementor. Okay, give a clap for Elementor so far if you like it. Is this really, really cool? I mean, it's just so easy to work with. Now look at this one. I'm going to give a little bit of space because that header is way too close to the top image. So I look for a little spacer, put it in here. And before this, welcome to EnduraFit, we want our latest news to show. So we bring in a plus and we put another column in there. And in this column, we're now going to look for a specific widget which would run and show blog stories. So let's see what they've got here. I think there's a nice one here under the gem options. Where is it? Portfolio grid? No. Blog grid. Let's see what this one does. You know, you can always test it out. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. Drop that in. And it says to us, select blog categories in the blog section. So here's all the settings just for that one. So blog, which category we want the latest news to feed through automatically over here. Boom, done. Look how professional that looks. And we can change any of the settings for it because whatever settings is available for that widget is here. So we can say we don't want the author name there. Let's take that out. And we don't want this social media likes. We do want the read more button. So you can customize it to look any way you want to. You can then also go over to style. Make it look exactly the way you want to. Maybe you don't like the gray background. Maybe you don't like the colors of the buttons, whatever the case may be, you've got complete control over that widget. And the cooler the widget is, the more settings you'll have for it. Okay, then let's update. There's now 2 little space here, so we'll just drop in some more space. Now, underneath it, where it says welcome to EnduraFit, now I don't need the space. I right click, delete that block. The welcome to EnduraFit, I want to do something else. I want to put 3 blocks here, 1 for swimming, 1 for cycling, and 1 for running. Now, in this case, we're going to call up what they call an intersection and drop an intersection into this pod. What an intersection does is it gives you multiple columns within a column. Because remember, we are in a column, but now we want 3 columns here, each for swim, cycling, and running. So what do we want in those columns? What I normally do, create it once, and then duplicate it 3 times, because you'll see now we're going to spend some time on setting it up. So for that column, the first column, we want to start with a heading, and it will say swimming. And We'll make it a lot smaller. Maybe we want some special fonts. I'm not going to do things like that now. Now I'm going to copy the text for swimming out here. And in our little column, we'll drop it underneath swimming. Oops, not above it. Okay, so there will be the text. Maybe this we center line. And above it, we want an image. So we grab an image, put it in there. Bring a swimming picture in. Now, don't worry, it's quite big here, but as soon as we duplicate our columns, we're going to be able to resize that. Now, what I want to get to here, can you see how close the text is to the sides? Now, earlier I said to you, there's a setting under advanced for each block or even the columns as well that is called padding and margins. And it's a very important web concept to understand because a margin is the space around an object, while the padding is the space inside the object. So if we look at that padding over there and we unlocked it, because locking it would mean if we say 10 pixels, can you see it making it 10 pixels all around the object? Maybe we want the left and right to be a little bit more. And now it bumps in from the sides, which is much better. Okay, that's better. And the reason I want to do that as well is I want to give that block a slight background color. And also a border. Maybe something like that. And now, because I've got one of them perfectly set up, now I can let's just give it a slight margin as well. So 10 pixel margin all the way around. See how neatly it bumps it in now. Now I'm right clicking that column and duplicating it 3 times. Nice. And now I can I don't need this anymore. And now I can go in and change the one to cycling and the one to running. See how quick that was? And it's really starting to take form. But look how much control you have about your content. It's not just boring old pages anymore. It's starting to look like proper design. Go to the front end and load it again. And voila. Okay. Right. So let's look at the other cool things you can do. There's, you know, when you work with Gem, just go and look on the side panel. It's so simple, but there's so many things you can do. You can bring in a Google map. So maybe next we want to show where the show is. So we bring in a little Google map. And we give it an address. It's as simple as that. Boom, we've got a Google map. Then, how about portfolio? You can do maybe a gallery you want to drop in underneath it. Oh, that's a pro one, sorry. Let's see, maybe image carousel. Maybe we want to bring in the logos of all the sponsors. So in that block, we'll bring in image carousel. It asks us what images do we want in there. Let's throw in all of the sponsor logos. And boom. Maybe we want to change their size here. Okay, it will take a bit of formatting here to make them each the same size. Okay, that's so you can see you have to play around a bit with the settings until you get it to look perfect. And maybe you just have to resize some of them, but this now has that scrolling functionality. You can make it scroll every few seconds. So just always read your little settings there. What else do we want? There's like cool toggles. So toggles is, for instance, where you have these little boxes that open up as you click on them, so they can have a title, and you know, it's just a better way of formatting your content. Like I said, you know, look, there's just so many. There's progress bars, there's animated buttons, there's a client logo plugin, there's a gallery slider, progress donut, tabs, team pages. You know, don't forget that you have all of these. There's a timeline. You have all of that functionality here. So as you plan your website, experiment and say, well, I can actually do this better. I can display this in a more exciting way. Don't forget that you have all of them there. So just again, that tutorial for Elementor is a great watch. I'll send it on to you so that you can just as a reminder to where you get these settings. And now I'm going to escape and exit back to WordPress and show you one last really cool trick. Now, remember we said that Gem has all of these sort of layouts already available, and they are called page import layouts. So we saw that business and IT one earlier, and we said, well, the formatting for that looked great. I might not use all the elements on it, but it's a great starting point for my homepage instead of custom designing all of it. So the Gem has a demo import option, and you have access to thousands of different looks for your pages. So be careful here, because if you import a whole demo, then you're importing all of the different pages. And with that, I mean, let's say we choose this one. If we look at the pre-built website, what you would be importing is the About Us, our services, projects, all of these pages with their looks. You might only want this look for your homepage. So you're only going to import the one page, and then you can modify it to fit the look and the content that you want. Or you might say, you know what, I want an About Us page. Instead of developing it from scratch, I'm just going to see what this one looks like. Yeah, this is not bad. This is nice. I like the image at the top. And here they use some toggles. That looks great. Yeah, that's a nifty little one. And I might not use all of these sections, but it's a nice one to install. So this theme, I want the home page and the About Us page. So instead of installing the complete pre-built website, I click here, install single pages from pre-built website. It's going to ask us, which of the pages do you want to import? So we'll select nothing. And we wanted the About Us page and the home page. Now remember, it's importing that page content with the images and everything. It's not overwriting your site. So if you had a home page, it's not going to replace that home page. It's creating a secondary homepage, and about us page, which you can go and design first and then bring it into your site afterwards. Okay, that'll take a while to install. Let's give it a moment. Almost. So it is copying the images from the demo. You're going to delete those images if you're not using them. It's importing the animation. It's importing all the blocks with all of their spacing, everything. It's also importing the settings for that page. So it gives you such a great starting point when you go into that page and you just modify. It's sometimes a much quicker way to go about creating a site very quickly. And the nice thing is the layouts of these pages are already in Elementor. So when you open them, you can simply start looking, where's the columns, where's the intersections, what is in that content, delete the parts you don't want, and so on. And, until you get the page to look exactly the way you want to. Well, this one's taking forever. Okay, while we wait, any questions? Almost there. Shame. Yeah, I thought 2 o'clock that he would be out, that there would be load shedding. So I see Shannon got a raw deal with electricity. Luckily, we all managed to stay on. Sorry, guys. Okay, there we go. So those pages will now be available under our pages. Remember, our menu did not necessarily have those pages on it. Okay, so if we now go in here and we say, well, we want to modify that about us page, all the pages you import as demo pages will say demo next to them. And now you can just go edit with Elementor. And there's everything ready for you to customize. Is the top image area. Now you can come in here and click the elements, bring in your own content. See how it brought in a lot of images and things for that demo. Now you can start modifying it. In here, you can bring in your own text. Go to this block, this one. If you don't want something, you just right click, delete. Maybe you don't want this whole section here, so you delete that. This you might want to keep for something. These 3 you might want to keep and just alter. So see how you just have a pre-laid page that you can then modify, change to anything that you want to. And now we can update it. We wanted to replace the About Us page that we had. How do we do that? We go back to all pages. And we say, well, we don't need our About Us page anymore, so we can trash that. And we save this About Us page without the name demo. We take that out. And we update. And now remember where we set up our menu? Appearance, menus. Now it's saying to us that About Us page link is no longer valid because remember we deleted it. So we remove it. And now we add the new About Us page we created. Slot it in there. And on our site, when you go to About Us, it will now jump to that look. Cool, how cool is that? So if you get a client that agrees to a certain import look, that's the best deal actually, because they, then you can charge them a lot less because most of the work is done for you, and it's just about customizing that that import look, which is also a great money saver for them. Right, so do we like the gem and Elementor? It's fantastic. I was working on WordPress for 10 years until I came across these two themes, and we switched to this January last year, and we haven't looked back. It's so incredible. It's just such a powerful theme and editor. Let me make a note here. So I'll send you those tutorials, and then of course Slider Revolution. Don't forget about Slider Revolution. You have it available, and it's to really build these sort of top bars with proper animation. You remember, on our homepage, we simply did a gallery there, but with the proper Revolution slider, you can make things fly in and out on a timeline and appear and disappear, all kinds of nifty tricks. So I want to end off today with very, very important caution. Like Verona mentioned as well, sometimes a plugin updates and wreaks havoc. What does that mean? Every few months at the top of your site, WordPress will say to you, a new version of WordPress is available. You need to update. Okay, that means your plugins need to update as well. So for our clients, we the ones that don't have a retainer with us, we charge them yearly and say to them, it's time for your yearly update. Normally it should be twice a year, but no, they're a bit stingy, so they're not going to pay twice a year. So it means that the WordPress files needs to be updated. So you click that update button, but remember your plugins also need updating. So in our case, under plugins at the moment, let's go look at the installed plugins. None of them need an update because we installed them today. But if they do, they will, like Slider Revolution, see there, it says there is an update available. So we need to select that one and update it. Sometimes things go smoothly, there's no issues, but sometimes an update would break the site. Just go and contact that plugin provider, because they'll know about it. Because you're using premium, you can even mention to them, I'm using the gem with Elementor. They'll say to you, okay, there's a glitch with Elementor. Try this update of the plugin. Contact them, because that's what they're there for. They will assist you. So just remember to keep your plugins updated. It's not a weekly thing. You can let it go for 3 or 4 months, maybe 6 months as well. But as long as you make it updated every 6 months or so, your site should run smoothly. Don't not do it, because your site will be hacked. I can promise you. So just be very aware of that. So that was a mouthful. If you're still listening, congratulations, because that was really so much to take in, I know. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed WordPress and you can see the potential behind it. And what I want from you is, as soon as possible, go and register a domain. It's going to cost you 100 Rand a month. Grab a name, whether you do this for a friend, do a website for a friend, or do one on your favorite hobby. Just dive into it and go through the whole shebang. Figure it out. Do your tutorials. While it's fresh in your memory, watch this session again to remind you. And, you know, like I said, it's going to be about figuring it out. It's going to be difficult the first time, but it's very, very rewarding work. It really is. It's so much fun to keep playing around until things look right and until plugins work correctly. And remember that shortcut in your hosting environment. If you do have a URL, instead of going through that massive process I showed you this morning, simply go to your hosting login, go to the URL that you registered, and there will be like a back end like this. Some of them look different. If you're with GoDaddy or something, it will look different. If you haven't registered a name yet, just go with Xnilo, guys. You can save yourself a lot of heartache. Now, if you've got the URL, you click on your URL that you've registered, and it's as simple as going to, come on, as going on the left menu to software and clicking install WordPress, and it's done. Okay, so you don't have to worry about those steps that that you have to take for uploading and all of that. It's taken care of for you. If you have an existing site, like let's say Natasha wants to change the MTN site, don't do that. Okay, so don't go and press the WordPress installer because it will completely wipe out their whole site. But you know what would happen in that case is you will build a site on a staging server, which means you build it under a different URL, like mtnnew.co.za. And when that site is ready, then you replace the old site. Okay, when it comes to big things like that, you know, contact me. We can always consult on helping you with that. And also, if you create your first website for a big site for a company, and you're just a little bit uncertain, but you want to take on the work, then let us come on board and just consult with you to finish the site. You know, we can help you out on the bits that you struggle with. That's also a great way to learn if you do have budget behind that project. After you've built the website, Verona, it is live. So this little site that we built now is completely live already. So we actually built it in a live environment. What I sometimes do, like with this site, is the Tanjun Capital site is not live yet. So what we did is we just put their details on the homepage. Just like that. And then we created the homepage 2, which is just a page. But here, the full functionality of the site is actually working. So the site is live, but nobody can see the content yet until, until we went to the back end. And remember in the back end where you go to your customize appearance and you said which page is the home page. So that temporary page that you've built, now you make the correct page, the home page. And that will run as the first page of the website. So a page, yeah, the thing with WordPress pages is they are live from the get-go. if a client says to you, look, they don't want the site to be live, what we do is we built it on our server. So for instance, we're busy with the Capital Works website. So we will build it under multi-dimensions / and then put it on a temporary server. So it's not live. It is live on the web, but nobody knows about it yet. So it's not on the actual CMAC as the site's name. So it's not on the cmac.online URL yet. And when they're ready and they say we're happy with the site, then we move it onto that URL with that duplicator plugin that I told you about, where you make a duplication of the site and then install it on the other side. It's a very, very simple little plugin. Just download it, read the instructions, and you'll see how you can do that. Or contact us and we'll help you make it live. Okay, any other questions for me? How do you feel about this? Are you ready to build your first website? Are you scared? Are you excited? It's such a rewarding line of work. And guys, if you want to start a side hobby and make a little bit of money, websites is just such a great market to get into. It will always be a need for websites. And before I forget, just remember, always check the responsive versions of your pages. People forget about this, and they simply do the desktop version, but they never look or check how it looks on the iPad version. See how the blocks change its look, and then on the cell phone version. So now it flows neatly underneath each other. So that's not bad, but always check, because you can make subtle changes on the mobile and the tablet version to make sure that it displays properly there as well. But it's just something that you have to remember to be aware of. Okay, for your projects, guys, for your certificates, you need to develop a website. And I'm not going to tell you to have it done tomorrow, because it's going to take you some time. So whether you're going to start a project for work or whether you're going to do your first site for your hobby, you're going to send me the URL eventually. Okay, so I will give you till March next year to really go and get into a project and do it. And again, I'm here. So if you're unsure, or you just want to talk over your concept before you start it, or you just want some advice again on the plugins and so on, 20-minute call with you is going to cost me nothing, and it will really help you. So remember, I'm absolutely available if you want some guidance. Okay. So anybody else, anything else you want to know while I'm still here?
Rudolph,
Yes.
the WeTransfer file you sent, what does that contain?
Okay, so that's the WordPress installation file. If you want to go that long route that I showed you, that's the full WordPress, but I doubt you will do it in the way that I did it, because that's just a long way around. And then I gave you the installation files for the gem, which will of course install the gem as well as Elementor for your site. So it's not the paid for, you'll have to buy your own license for it, but at least you'll have the installation files. So I gave you that one. And with the installation files, without paying, you can already work with some of the functionality of the theme. So it's just it's a nice way for you to get into it. Cool. All right, did you learn some new tricks today? Fantastic. Okay, guys, I wish you all the best. I will quickly edit this video and I will email it to you this afternoon together with all the tutorials for, that I mentioned as well. And then we will see each other again soon. So take care. Have a great afternoon. Till next time.
Thank you.